Victoria Hayes pulled a $100 bill from her wallet, held it up so every executive in that hangar could see it, and let it drop at the feet of the black maintenance worker standing in front of her. "Take it," she said. "Buy yourself a better toolbox." 20 people laughed. Marcus Bennett bent down, picked it up, folded it once, put it in his pocket. Then he said 6 words that killed the laughter in that room. What none of them knew, not the CEO, not her 10 engineers, was that the man in the grease-stained uniform had helped build the machine they couldn't fix. Stay with me to the end, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The night shift at Halcyon Motors' Georgia facility started at 10 and ended at 6, and in 11 months, Marcus Bennett had never once clocked out late. That was the whole point of the job. He'd taken it because the hours meant he could drop Lily at school at 7:40, sleep from 8 to 3, and be standing at the pickup line at 3:15 every single afternoon with her water bottle in his hand. He had turned down 2 better-paying jobs to protect that schedule. He'd have turned down 10. So when the call came at 4:40 in the morning, the first thing Marcus thought about wasn't the truck. It was the clock. Bennett. It was Ray Delgado, the floor supervisor, and Ray's voice had a crack in it that Marcus had never heard before. "I need you in Bay 9. Bay 9's not maintenance." "I know what Bay 9 is." "Ray, they've been in there all night, Marcus. All night, the whole engineering team, and that thing hasn't moved an inch." Ray took a breath. "The floor's a mess. There's coolant down, there's tools everywhere, somebody kicked over a cart. Investors are showing up at 8. They want it cleaned before anybody important walks in." Marcus looked at the wall clock. 4:41. "I'm off at 6. "You'll be off at 6. "Ray, you'll be off at 6, I'm telling you. Push a broom, wipe the floor, get out." Marcus picked up his toolbox anyway. 11 months on that floor, and he'd learned one thing: you never walked into a room like that empty-handed. A man with a toolbox is a man doing his job. A man without one is a man wandering around where he doesn't belong. He heard Bay 9 before he saw it. Not the truck. The truck wasn't making any sound at all. That was the first thing he noticed, and it stuck in the back of his mind like a splinter. What he heard were the voices. 10 or 11 of them all talking over each other, that particular pitch men get when they've been failing for 8 straight hours and they've started arguing about who's failing hardest. Reflashed it twice, the handshake never completes. Then it's the pack. It's the pack. It's the... It is not the pack. The pack passed every diagnostic. Diagnostics don't mean anything if the bus isn't. "Gentlemen." A woman's voice, and every other voice stopped. "It's 4:45 in the morning. In 3 hours and 15 minutes, 6 men who have put $400 million into this company are going to walk through that door. Somebody in this room is going to tell them something. I would prefer it be good news, but I will settle for accurate." Marcus stopped just inside the doorway. He knew who that was. Everybody knew who that was. Victoria Hayes had been on the cover of 3 magazines that year. She'd built Halcyon from a garage operation into a company worth $11 billion in 9 years, and she had a reputation for 2 things being right and being extremely unpleasant about it. She was standing with her arms crossed in front of a prototype hauler, the size of a small house, and she had not slept either. Marcus could tell. You could always tell. He kept his head down and started with the coolant. He got about 90 seconds of quiet work before somebody noticed him. "Hey, hey." Marcus looked up. The man walking toward him was in his 40s, silver at the temples, wearing the kind of quarter zip that cost more than Marcus's first car. Ethan Cole, director of engineering. Marcus had never spoken a word to him. He'd seen him plenty. Cole was the type who walked through the plant floor like he was walking through weather. "Who called you in here?" "Delgado." "For what?" "Clean up." Marcus gestured at the floor with the mop handle. "Before 8. "We're working. I'll stay out of the way." "You'll stay out of the bay," Cole said. "There's $3 million of hardware in here, and half of it's exposed. Wait outside." And Marcus would have. That's the thing. That's the part nobody understood afterward when people asked him about that morning like he'd planned it. He was going to leave. He had his hand on the mop and he had already turned toward the door, and the whole rest of his life was about to go a completely different direction. Then one of the engineers said, "Try it again." And somebody hit the ignition sequence, and Marcus heard it. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. A high, thin, stuttering noise from somewhere in the mid-chassis, 3 quick pulses, and then nothing cut off clean, like a man starting a sentence and thinking better of it. Marcus's head came up before he could stop it. He'd heard that sound before. He'd heard that sound in a lab in Michigan at 2 in the morning 11 years ago with a coffee in his hand, and a woman named Simone laughing at him from across the bench because he'd just spent 4 hours chasing a fault that turned out to be a comma. He stood there with the mop. "Walk out," he told himself. "Walk out the door, Marcus. This is not your fight. This is not your building. This is not your name on anything." "Do it again," he said. The room turned around. Ethan Cole's face did something complicated. "Excuse me." "Run the sequence again." Marcus set the mop against the wall. "Please." "You're the janitor." "Maintenance." "You're the janitor," Cole said. "And I told you to wait outside." "Ethan?" Victoria Hayes hadn't moved. She was looking at Marcus now, and there was nothing warm in it, but there was something worse. There was entertainment. "Let him talk. God knows nobody else in here has said anything useful since midnight." A couple of the engineers laughed, the nervous kind. Victoria walked over. Not fast. She stopped about 6 feet away and looked at Marcus the way you look at a vending machine that took your money. "What's your name?" "Marcus Bennett." "How long have you worked here, Marcus Bennett?" 11 months. "Doing what?" "Maintenance. Conveyor drives mostly. Compressors. Whatever breaks." "Whatever breaks." She nodded slowly. "And what is it you think you heard?" Marcus could feel the whole room on him. 11 engineers, 2 executives, a security guard by the door with his thumbs in his belt. And he thought about Lily. He thought about the fact that this job paid $58,000 a year and covered her dental, and that there were 200 people in Clayton County who'd take it tomorrow, and that a man in his position did not correct a billionaire in front of her staff at 5 in the morning. He thought about all of it, and then he opened his mouth anyway, because 11 years ago, a woman named Simone Bennett had told him that the worst thing a smart man could do was pretend to be stupid to make other people comfortable, and he had buried her 4 years ago, and he had never once been able to make himself disagree with her. "The problem isn't the battery," Marcus said. Silence. Then Victoria Hayes laughed. It wasn't cruel exactly. That was almost the worst part. It was delighted. It was the laugh of a woman who has been awake for 22 hours and has just been handed something genuinely funny at the exact moment she needed it. "Oh," she said. "Oh, that's wonderful." She turned to the room. Gentlemen, I need your attention. This is..." She looked back. "I'm sorry, what was it?" "Marcus. This is Marcus. Marcus does the conveyors, and Marcus has just informed us that the problem is not the battery." She spread her hands. "Dr. Okafor, 12 years at Argonne. Dr. Rice, MM, IT 2 patents in solid-state chemistry. Kyle over there designed the thermal architecture on this platform personally. 11 of you, all night, and the man with the mop has it." Somebody actually clapped. Once. Sarcastically. Marcus didn't move. He had learned a long time ago what to do with his face in a room like this. You keep it still. You don't get defensive because defensive looks like guilty. You don't smile because smiling looks like you're in on it. You keep it still and you wait. "I'm not saying I have it," Marcus said. "I'm saying it's not the battery." "And how do you know that?" "Because it's not asking for power." Victoria's eyebrows went up half an inch. "Excuse me. When a pack faults," Marcus said, "the vehicle asks anyway. It keeps knocking. You get a repeating handshake attempt 4 or 5 seconds before it gives up and throws the code. That's how they're designed. That thing," he pointed at the truck without looking at it, "knocked 3 times and quit. 3 pulses and out clean. It didn't fail to get power. It stopped asking." Nobody said anything. Marcus put his hands in his pockets. Something told it not to ask, he said. For about 4 seconds, the only sound in Bay 9 was the ventilation. Then Ethan Cole said very loudly, "This is unbelievable." He was walking again, fast this time. "Victoria, this is with respect, this is insane. We have investors in 3 hours, and we are standing here listening to a maintenance tech do a Discovery Channel impression." "He said a thing," Victoria said. "He said a sound. He described a fault pattern in about 11 seconds, Ethan, which is more than you've done since 8 o'clock last night, so if it's all the same to you, I'd like another minute of the janitor." She turned back to Marcus. "Say more." "That's all I've got from the doorway." "Then come closer." "Victoria." Cole's voice had gone flat. "No." "Why not?" "Because there is exposed high-voltage hardware in that bay, and this man is not certified to be within 10 feet of it. And if he touches something and dies in there, the liability is, he's not going to touch anything." Victoria didn't take her eyes off Marcus. "Are you going to touch anything?" "No, ma'am." "There. He's not going to touch anything." She smiled. "Come here, Marcus." And that right there was the moment Marcus should have said no. He knew it at the time. That was the strange part. He stood in that doorway with a mop against the wall behind him and a paycheck in his future, and a 9-year-old asleep in a house 11 miles east. And some cold, careful part of his brain said, very clearly, this woman is not asking you a question. She's setting up a punchline. He walked over anyway. He didn't touch it. He'd said he wouldn't. He walked the length of the chassis with his hands behind his back like a man in a museum, and he looked at 3 things, and the whole time he could hear Cole behind him narrating to nobody in particular about how they were wasting time, how the pack needed to come out, how they should be calling the supplier. Marcus looked at the diagnostic laptop somebody had left open on a stand. He looked at the service port on the left rocker, and he looked at the timestamp on the last software commit, which was sitting right there on the screen in 6-point font because nobody in that building thought a maintenance man could read it. He stood there for a second longer than he meant to. Then he stepped back. "When did it last run clean?" he asked. "Wednesday," one of the engineers said. "Young guy, Okafor's assistant." He seemed genuinely relieved somebody was asking him something. "Wednesday afternoon. Full loop 40 minutes, no faults." "Anybody push anything to it since Wednesday?" "No." "You sure?" "There's a change log. Nothing's on it." "Okay," Marcus said. And that was it. That was all he said. He turned around and started walking back toward his mop, and he had gotten maybe 6 steps when Victoria Hayes said, "Where are you going?" "Back to work." "You don't get to do that." Marcus stopped. "Ma'am, you don't get to walk in here at 5 in the morning, tell a room full of doctorates they're wrong, and then go mop." She was smiling, but her voice had changed. It had gotten precise. "You said something. Now stand behind it. What's your diagnosis?" "I don't have one." "You have something." "I have a guess." "Then say the guess." "No, ma'am." The smile flickered. "No." "No," Marcus said. "Because if I say it, and I'm right, one of these men has a very bad morning. And I've been in this building 11 months, and I don't know which one of them deserves that." Somewhere behind him, an engineer inhaled. Victoria Hayes looked at Marcus Bennett for a long, long moment, and then she reached into her jacket and took out her wallet. Later, much later, when there were lawyers involved, and a deposition, and a very uncomfortable article in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, people would ask her why she did it. She never gave a good answer. There wasn't one. She'd been awake 22 hours. She had $400 million walking through the door at 8. She had a director of engineering screaming in one ear, and a board member texting her every 11 minutes, and a stock price that had already dropped 6% on a rumor. And here was a man in the maintenance uniform with grease under his fingernails, telling her politely, calmly, without raising his voice one single time, that he knew something she didn't. She pulled out a $100 bill. She held it up between 2 fingers high enough that everyone in the bay could see it. "Take this," she said. And she let go. It didn't drop straight. Bills never do. It slid sideways through the air and landed face up about 10 inches from Marcus's left boot. "Maybe you can buy yourself a better toolbox," Victoria said. The room laughed. Not all of them. That's worth saying. Okafor didn't laugh. The kid, the assistant, went red to the ears and looked at the floor. But enough of them did. Enough that it filled the space. Enough that it echoed off a 90-foot ceiling and came back down on Marcus Bennett's shoulders like weather. And Ethan Cole laughed loudest of all. Marcus didn't move. Not because he was frozen. Because he was counting. He'd learned that from his father, who'd spent 31 years at a foundry in Birmingham, and who had one rule about moments like this. Don't answer the first thing that comes to you. Count to 5. The man you are at 5 is the man you'll be proud of at 60. 1. They're laughing. 2. Lily's got a spelling test today. Ocean words. She'll want to run them in the car. 3. 11 months. 58,000 a year. Dental. 4. Simone would have walked out of this room by now. Simone would have walked out and gotten in the car and been 3 exits down I-20 before the door closed. 5. Marcus bent down. He picked up the $100 bill. He looked at it for a second. Franklin's face, the little blue stripe, a crease down the middle where it had been folded in her wallet. Then he folded it once, put it in his shirt pocket, and buttoned the flap. The laughing stopped. It's a strange thing about laughter. It needs a target that flinches. It needs somebody to go red or shout or throw something. Take that away, and it collapses on itself in about 2 seconds, and everybody in the room suddenly hears what they sound like. Marcus looked up. "Thank you," he said. Victoria Hayes blinked. "You're welcome. I'll put it in my daughter's account." He said it perfectly evenly. "She's 8. She's saving for a telescope. That's about a third of the way there." Nobody said anything. "Anything else, ma'am?" And Victoria Hayes, who had negotiated with the Chinese government, who had fired her own brother, who had once made a Fortune 100 CEO cry in a conference room in Geneva, found herself for the first time in probably 9 years at a complete and total loss for what to say next. So, she did what people like her do when they're losing. She raised the stakes. "A challenge," she said. "Victoria," Cole started. "A challenge, Marcus." She stepped closer. Her voice came back up to full volume, and it carried. "You've got 11 engineers in this room who've had 8 hours. Investors walk in at 8. That's 3 hours and 4 minutes. I'm off at 6. You'll be paid." "That's not what I said." "Then hear the rest of it." She was fully awake now. Whatever fog she'd been in was gone, burned off, and what was underneath it was the woman from the magazine covers. "If they fix it first, you go back to your mop, and we never speak again, and you keep the $100. Fine. Good. But if you fix it first—" "Victoria, no. If you fix it first, then I stand in this bay in front of every person here, and I say out loud that I was wrong. About you. About all of it." She held his eyes. "I have never done that. Not once. Not in 9 years." Somebody actually said, "Oh my God," under their breath. Marcus stood there. And here's what was going through his head. And it wasn't triumph, and it wasn't anger, and it definitely wasn't some movie moment where the music swells. It was arithmetic, because he knew what was wrong with that truck. He'd known within about 90 seconds of walking through the door, and he'd known for certain the moment he read that timestamp on the laptop. And fixing it wasn't going to be the hard part. The hard part was that if he fixed it, he was going to have to explain how he knew. And the second he explained how he knew, 11 years of very carefully constructed quiet was going to come apart in front of the whole room. He'd built that quiet on purpose, brick by brick. He'd taken a job under his own name at a company that had his patents in its own filing cabinets. And he had done it because Halcyon paid better than anywhere within 30 minutes of Lily's school. And because he had bet correctly for 11 months that nobody in that building would ever look at a maintenance uniform hard enough to read the name on it. If he did this, that bet was over. There'd be questions. There'd be press if the investors were in the room. There'd be somebody eventually asking Marcus Bennett why a man with a doctorate and 4 patents had spent a year and a half sweeping floors, and he would have to stand there and explain about a hospital in Ann Arbor and 11 weeks and a little girl who wouldn't sleep unless somebody was in the chair by the door. He didn't want that. Not any of it. But there was one more thing. He kept thinking about the changelog. Nothing's on it, because that was the piece that didn't fit. Marcus had spent the last 4 minutes constructing a story in his head where this was an accident, a bad build, a corrupted flash, a sloppy merge, the kind of thing that happens to good teams on bad weeks. And that story didn't work, because a corrupted flash shows up on the log, a sloppy merge shows up on the log. Every single thing that touches that vehicle's brain leaves a mark, and that was his own design. He had argued for it in a conference room in 2016 against 3 people who said it was overkill, unless somebody went in through the service port on the rocker panel, which bypasses the log, which is not a mistake, which is a decision. Marcus turned his head very slightly and looked at Ethan Cole. Cole was talking. Still talking, hands moving, telling Victoria about liability and protocol and the certification requirements for anyone entering an active test bay. And Marcus watched him. And Ethan Cole, mid-sentence, glanced over and caught him looking, and something happened in the man's face. It was fast, half a second, maybe less. But Marcus had spent 38 years learning to read the faces of people who'd decided something about him before he opened his mouth, and he knew that expression on sight. It wasn't irritation. It was fear. Marcus turned back to Victoria Hayes. 3 hours, he said. She straightened up. You're accepting? I've got one condition. Name it. I want it in front of the investors. The bay went absolutely silent. Victoria stared at him. You want what? You said you'd say it out loud in front of every person here. Marcus nodded toward the door. At 8 o'clock there's going to be more people here. I want it then. Why? And Marcus Bennett, janitor, maintenance tech, 11 months on the floor, $100 bill buttoned into his shirt pocket, looked at the CEO of an $11 billion company and gave her the only honest answer he had. Because whatever's wrong with that truck, he said, somebody in this building did it on purpose, and when I show you, I want witnesses who don't work for you. Ethan Cole stopped talking. Just stopped. Mid-word. And every single person in Bay 9, including Victoria Hayes, turned to look at him. Ethan Cole recovered fast. Marcus gave him credit for that. I'm sorry, Cole said. Did he just accuse someone? He said somebody did it on purpose, Victoria said. Yes, in a room, out loud, with 11 witnesses. Cole turned in a slow half circle, arms open, playing to the crowd. Do we understand what that is? That's defamation. That's a lawsuit. That's a man with a mop deciding at 5 in the morning that he's a federal investigator. Then it should be easy to prove him wrong, Victoria said. That is not the point. It's exactly the point. Victoria. Cole dropped his voice, which was a mistake because a bay that size carries a whisper better than a shout. You are 3 hours out from the most important demonstration of this company's life, and you are letting a janitor set the agenda. Nobody's setting anything. Victoria checked her watch. It's 5:04. I gave him until 8. That's what's happening. And when he breaks something, then I'll have made a very expensive mistake in a very public way, which, as you've noticed, is a specialty of mine. She turned. Marcus, what do you need? Marcus had been standing there the whole time doing math with his hands in his pockets. 4 things, he said. Go. A laptop with a service cable. Not that one. A clean one that hasn't been on this vehicle tonight. Why? Because I don't know what's on that one. Somebody in the back said, oh, come on. Second thing, Marcus said. I want the maintenance access logs for Bay 9, badge scans, every entry and exit going back 3 weeks. That's facilities, Cole said. That's not engineering. You'd have to pull that from building security. Then pull it from building security. At 5 in the morning. You've got a man at that door right now, Marcus said, and he nodded at the security guard who had gone very still. Ask him. Victoria looked at the guard. What's your name? Tom, ma'am. Tom, can you get badge logs for this bay? Tom looked at Cole. It was quick. It was a flick of the eyes, less than half a second, and Marcus caught it and filed it in the same place he'd filed everything else that morning. "I'd need a supervisor to authorize," Tom said. "You've got the CEO." "Yes, ma'am. I'll make the call." "Third thing," Marcus said, "you're on a roll. I want somebody from that team standing next to me the whole time." That got a reaction. Cole actually laughed. "You want a chaperone?" "I want a witness." Marcus looked at the group. "Because in about 40 minutes, somebody in this room is going to say I broke something. And when they do, I want a person with a degree standing close enough to say what I actually did." The bay went quiet, in a way it hadn't yet that night. Victoria's chin came up half an inch. "Pick one." Marcus scanned the group. 11 men and women, gray in the face, coffee cups everywhere, all of them looking at him with some version of the same expression. Then he found the kid. 26, maybe 27, the one who'd gone red to his ears when the laughing started. "You," Marcus said. "What's your name?" Devin Price." "You're the one who told me about Wednesday." "Yes, sir." "Then you." Marcus said it plainly. "If that's all right." Devin looked around like he was hoping someone would object. Nobody did. Dr. Okafor, the woman with 12 years at Argonne, said quietly, "Go on, Devin." And that settled it. "Fourth thing," Victoria said. Marcus hesitated for the first time. "I need to make a phone call at 6:15. "For what?" "My daughter gets up at 6:15. He said it with no apology in it at all. "She's going to hear the alarm and I'm not going to be there. If I don't call her before she gets scared, we're going to have a bad week." Nobody laughed at that one. "Take your call," Victoria said. 5:11. Devin Price came back with a sealed laptop still in the plastic and a service cable and a look on his face like a man who'd been handed a live grenade and told to hold it for the group photo. "Okay," he said. "Okay. So, Mr. Bennett." Marcus, right." Devin lowered his voice. "I have to say something." "Go ahead." "I don't think you're crazy." He glanced back at the group. "The 3-pulse thing. That was real. I heard it too about an hour ago, and I said something to Kyle, and he said it was the contactor cycling, and I let it go because he's been here 6 years, and I've been here 14 months. That's not on you." "It kind of is." "No." Marcus took the laptop. "You said the thing. He didn't listen. That's a different failure, and it's got a different name on it." Devin exhaled. "Okay. Now tell me something. That changelog you mentioned, where does it live?" "Server side. Every push writes a hash and a user ID. It's automatic. You can't turn it off." "You can't turn it off through the network port," Marcus said. "What about hardline?" Devin opened his mouth, closed it. "Devin." "There's a maintenance port," Devin said slowly. "Left rocker, under the panel. It's for factory bring up. It's supposed to be locked out after homologation." "Is it locked out?" Devin didn't answer. "Is it locked out, Devin?" "I don't know," Devin said. "Nobody's ever asked me that." Marcus knelt down beside the left rocker panel. He put his hand flat on it, felt along the seam and stopped. "Hey," he said. "Come look at this." Devin crouched next to him. The panel had 8 fasteners. 6 of them were factory torque, painted with a white witness mark that lines up perfectly when nobody's touched them. 2 of them didn't line up. Devin stared at it for 4 full seconds. "That could be anything," he said, and his voice had gone thin. "That could be from assembly. That could be from the transport crew." "Could be," Marcus said. "It could." "You want it to be." "Yeah," Devin said. "Yeah, I really do." 5:19. Victoria Hayes was standing 40 feet away with her phone against her ear, and she was not happy. "No, Grant, no. Listen to me. Listen. Nobody is saying that." She turned her back to the room. "Because it isn't broken, it's stopped, and there's a difference. I'm aware of what the term sheet says. I wrote the term sheet. Cole was hovering 3 feet away, waiting, and the second she lowered the phone, he was on her. Grant Whitfield. Grant Whitfield. What did he say? He said if that truck doesn't drive at 8:15, the second tranche doesn't fund. Victoria pressed 2 fingers to the bridge of her nose. He said it very politely. He asked about my son. Then he said it. So we call it off. We can't call it off. We postpone. Weather scheduling, anything. We take the hit on the news cycle, and we come back in September with a truck that runs. Ethan, if I postpone this demonstration, the story tomorrow is not that Halcyon had a bad week. The story is that Halcyon's autonomy platform doesn't work, and the second that story exists, it's true forever. She looked at him. You've been here 5 years. You know that. I do know that. Then stop asking me to postpone. Cole was quiet for a second. Then let me pull the pack, he said. What? Give me 90 minutes and a crew, and let me swap in the backup module from Bay 4. It's not a fix. It's a transplant, but that truck will roll under its own power at 8:15, and Grant Whitfield will write the check. He spread his hands. That's the play, Victoria. That's the only play. And that was the exact moment Marcus Bennett stood up from the rocker panel 40 feet away and said loud enough to carry across the whole bay, "Don't touch the pack." Cole didn't even turn around. "Nobody's talking to you." "You pull that pack and you lose the fault," Marcus said. "Whatever's on that vehicle right now, whatever told it to stop asking that lives in the module, and the module is going to get wheeled into a storage room, and by Monday somebody's going to reflash it, and it's gone. Forever. And you'll never know what happened." "That is the point," Cole said. "The point is it drives." "Then say that." "I just did." "No." Marcus was walking now. "You said transplant. You said backup module. What you mean is, you want the evidence out of the building before 8 o'clock. The bay stopped. Dr. Okafor set down her coffee. Ethan Cole turned around very slowly. "Say that again." "I'll say it a different way," Marcus said. "Why are you afraid of somebody checking the system?" Later, people who were in Bay 9 that morning would disagree about a lot of things. They'd disagree about the exact wording. They'd disagree about who said what to whom. But every single one of them in every account described the next 8 seconds the same way. Ethan Cole did not answer the question. He looked at Victoria. He looked at the truck. He looked at Devin Price, who was still crouched by the rocker panel with a flashlight in his hand, and something in his face came apart and got put back together wrong. And then he said, "Get security." "Ethan, get security in here right now and get this man out of my bay." "Ethan, he asked you a question." "He accused me of a felony, Victoria. He asked why you're afraid of somebody checking the system." Victoria's voice had gone very flat. "Which I notice you still haven't answered." Cole's mouth opened and closed. "You want me to dignify that? I want you to say no." "What? Say no." Victoria took a step toward him. "It's a small word. He asked if you're afraid of somebody checking the system. Say no, Ethan. Say no, and I'll drop it, and we'll go back to work. And I will personally apologize to you at 8:30 in front of everyone." 10 seconds went by. Ethan Cole said, "This is insane." "That's not no," Victoria said. Chad, 5:26. Tom the guard came back with a printout, and he handed it to Victoria, and he made a point of not looking at Cole while he did it. "Badge logs, ma'am. Bay 9 3 weeks. "Thank you, Tom. There's a note on the second page." "What kind of note?" "You'll see it." Victoria read standing up. Marcus watched her face while she did it, because he had learned a long time ago that you find out more from a person's jaw than from anything they say out loud, and hers had locked. "Devin," she said. "Ma'am?" "What time did the team leave the bay on Wednesday?" 6:30, little after. We did the loop, it passed, everybody went home." "Everybody?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then can you explain, Victoria said. Why a badge scanned into this bay at 11:52 on Wednesday night and back out at 12:31? Nobody said anything. Because there's no maintenance ticket, Victoria said. There's no test scheduled. There's no reason for anyone to be in this bay at midnight on a Wednesday. And I'm looking at a badge number. Marcus was watching Cole. Cole was watching the printout. Whose badge? Dr. Okafor asked. It's a contractor number, Victoria said. 9144, not an employee, vendor access. And Marcus saw Ethan Cole's shoulders drop about half an inch, and he thought there it is because that was not the drop of a man who's been cleared. That was the drop of a man who just found out the door he'd used had a camera on it, and the number on the badge was not his own, and now he had about 2 hours to figure out how far the string went before somebody else pulled it. 9144, Marcus said. Who's that? I don't know, Victoria said. Somebody in this room does. Silence. Somebody in this room signed that vendor in, Marcus said. That's how it works. Contractor badges don't self-issue. There's a sponsor name on the form. Victoria flipped the page. She read it. She did not say the name out loud. She folded the printout in half, then in half again, and she put it in the inside pocket of her jacket. And when she looked up, her face was completely professionally blank. Marcus, she said. How long do you need with that vehicle? 40 minutes. You've got it? Victoria, Cole said. You've got 40 minutes and nobody touches the pack. She was already walking. Devin, you stay on him. Dr. Okafor, I'd like you on him too. Ethan, come with me. Where are we going? My office. Why? And Victoria Hayes stopped and looked back at her director of engineering and gave him a smile that Marcus would remember for the rest of his life. Because I want to ask you about invoices, she said. 5:33. The second the two of them were out of the bay, the room exhaled. Okay, Dr. Okafor said. Okay. Somebody explain to me what just happened, because I have been awake for 23 hours, and I think I just watched the CEO put our boss in a headlock. She found a name, Devin said. I know she found a name. She didn't say it. I know she didn't say it. Okafor turned to Marcus. You, Bennett, talk to me straight because I'm too tired for a performance. Do you actually know what's wrong with that vehicle? Marcus was already opening the sealed laptop. I think somebody wrote a command into the drive controller that the safety layer doesn't like, he said. And I think the safety layer did exactly what it's supposed to do, which is refuse to move, and everybody in here spent 8 hours calling that a failure when it's actually the only part of this truck that worked. Okafor stared at him. The safety layer is a lockout, she said slowly. It shouldn't be able to gate the traction handshake. It can't reach that far. It can if you built it that way. Nobody built it that way. Somebody did, Marcus said. In 2016, there's an interlock chain that runs from the safety supervisor through the handshake arbiter, and if the supervisor sees a torque request it can't validate, it doesn't throw a code. It goes silent. 3 pulses and out. Okafor didn't move for a long moment. How do you know that? Marcus plugged in the cable. Because I read a lot, he said. That's not an answer. It's the one I've got right now, ma'am. 5:40. The laptop woke up and Marcus's hands went to the keyboard, and Devin Price, standing over his shoulder, made a small strangled sound. You didn't use the GUI. No. Nobody uses the terminal. They took the terminal out of training 2 years ago. They said it was legacy. It's not legacy, Marcus said. It's underneath. He typed for about 90 seconds. Devin read over his shoulder the whole time and stopped breathing at around the 60-second mark. Wait, he said. Wait. Go back. I see it. Go back. Marcus scrolled up. There were 411 lines in the boot sequence log, and 409 of them were exactly what they should have been. Line 206 was a torque authorization written to the arbiter at 12:14 a.m. on Thursday. Line 207 was the safety supervisor refusing it. That's Thursday, Devin whispered. That's the middle of the night on Thursday. That's 22 minutes after that badge went in. Yeah. That's not a bug. No, Marcus said. It isn't. Somebody hand wrote a torque command into a $3 million autonomous truck at 12:14 in the morning. They did. Why would anybody do that? That doesn't break it. That doesn't even do anything. The supervisor caught it. It's nothing. And Marcus sat back on his heels and looked at line 206 for a long moment and felt something cold move through his chest. It's not nothing, he said. It didn't move the truck. It wasn't supposed to move the truck. Marcus's voice had changed. Devin noticed it. Okafor noticed it from 10 feet away and came over. Devin, what happens if the supervisor doesn't catch it? It can't not catch it. Say it did. Devin thought about it, and then Marcus watched a 26-year-old engineer figure out something at 5:43 in the morning that made his face go completely white. It'd apply torque, Devin said, with the pack live, and nobody in the loop. How much torque? That value. Devin looked at the number again. That's not a creep value. That would be full. Full torque, Marcus said. 11,000 pounds, in a closed bay, at 12:14 in the morning. Oh my God. Now tell me why somebody would write that. I don't know. Guess. To break it, Devin said. To make it hit a wall and break it so it looks like the platform failed. That's one, Marcus said. Here's another. He turned the laptop so both of them could see. He wrote it at 12:14. He was out of the building at 12:31. That command didn't fire. It sat there refused, and the vehicle went quiet, and everybody assumed it was the pack. Marcus tapped the screen. But it's still armed. It's sitting in the arbiter queue right now. It never got cleared because nobody ever looked, because everybody's been staring at the battery for 8 hours. Okafor said, say the rest of it. If somebody pulls that pack out and puts a fresh module in, Marcus said, the supervisor reboots, clean, new handshake, no memory of the refusal. And the command's still in the queue, Devin said. And the command's still in the queue. Devin Price put both hands on top of his head. He was going to swap the pack, he said. He said it out loud. He said, give me 90 minutes and a crew. Yes, he did. With a crew of people standing next to it. Yes, Marcus said. He did. Dr. Amara Okafor turned around and looked at the door Ethan Cole had walked out of 11 minutes earlier, and Marcus watched a woman with 2 decades in the industry realize exactly what she had come very close to signing off on. I need to sit down, she said. Don't sit down, Marcus said. Go find Victoria. 5:52. Okafor was gone. Devin was pacing. Marcus was on his knees at the rocker panel with a light in his teeth photographing the 2 fasteners that didn't line up 1 shot wide, 1 shot close, 1 shot with his own badge in the frame for the timestamp. Because 11 years ago, a lawyer in Michigan had spent 4 hours teaching him how to document something you might one day have to swear to. His phone buzzed against his hip. He looked at it. It was 5:52, and the screen said Mrs. Greer, which was his neighbor across the hall, 71 years old, who watched Lily on the nights he worked and who had never once called him at work in 11 months. He stood up so fast, he cracked his shoulder on the fender. Mrs. Greer? She's fine, Mrs. Greer said immediately, because she was that kind of woman. First thing, she's fine. She's right here. Marcus put his hand flat against the side of the truck and stood there for a second. Okay, he said. She woke up early. She had a dream about the hospital again. Okay. She's not crying. She just wants to hear you. Put her on. There was a shuffle, and then a small voice said, Daddy? Hey, Bug? You're not home. I'm not home yet. I got asked to stay late. You never stay late. I know. You never stay late. I know I don't, Marcus said, and he turned his back to the bay and lowered his voice, and Devin Price, 12 feet away, very deliberately looked at the ceiling. Listen to me. Do you remember what I told you about the ocean words? That I already know them. That you already know them. That you knew them Sunday, and you knew them Tuesday, and you're going to know them at 9 o'clock this morning. Currents, Lily said. Currents. See? Tides. Tides. There it is. Are you coming to get me at 3:15? And Marcus Bennett stood in Bay 9 at 5:54 in the morning with a $3 million truck at his back and an armed torque command sitting in a queue 11 feet away, and a $100 bill buttoned into his shirt pocket, and he said, "Yes." Promise? 3:15. Okay? Bug. Yeah. You did good calling me. Mrs. Greer called you. Then Mrs. Greer did good, Marcus said. Put her back on. He talked to Mrs. Greer for another 40 seconds, and when he hung up, he stood there facing the wall with the phone still in his hand, and it took him a moment. Devin said quietly, "You okay?" "Yeah." "You want a minute?" "I don't have a minute," Marcus said, and he turned around and he was back. "Get me the arbiter cue. I want it on the screen before Victoria walks back in that door, because when she does, I'm only going to get one shot at explaining it." 6:07. The door opened, and it wasn't Victoria. It was Ray Delgado, the floor supervisor, and he came in fast and found Marcus and got right up next to him and spoke low. "Marcus, man, what did you do?" "Ray, because I've got Cole's assistant at the badge office right now asking for your file." Marcus set the laptop down. "My file. Your personnel file. Your application. Your background." Ray's eyes were wide. "I told them it's 5 in the morning, come back at 9. She said it's urgent. She said Ethan needs it in 15 minutes. Devin looked up. Why would he want his personnel file? And Marcus Bennett, who had spent 11 months making sure nobody in that building ever opened that particular folder, said something out loud for the first time since the day he'd filled out the application. "Because he's going to say I have a motive," Marcus said. "For what? For sabotage." Ray said, "Marcus, what's in your file?" "Nothing that isn't true." "That's not an answer." "No," Marcus said. "It isn't." He looked at the clock on the wall. 6:09. 1 hour and 51 minutes until the doors opened and 6 investors walked into that bay. "Ray," he said, "how fast can you get to the badge office?" 4 minutes. "Then go stand in it," Marcus said. "Don't stop them. Don't argue with anybody. Just stand there and make sure that when they pull it, you see exactly which pages they take." Ray stared at him. "Which pages?" he repeated. "Yeah. Why would it matter which pages?" And Marcus picked the laptop back up and said, "Because he's not going to show them all of it." 6:12. Ray Delgado was gone before Marcus finished the sentence, and Devin Price stood there, holding a flashlight he'd forgotten he was holding. "Marcus?" "Yeah?" "What's in your file? Ask me at 9 o'clock. "That's not fair." "No," Marcus said. "It isn't." He crouched back down at the laptop and pulled up the arbiter cue, and Devin watched the screen fill with a block of hexadecimal and one line highlighted in the middle of it, sitting there, patient as a loaded gun. "Okay," Devin said, "so flush it." "No." "Marcus, that command is armed. You said it yourself. You said if anybody reboots that supervisor, it applies full torque in a closed bay. So flush the queue, right now. It takes 4 seconds. "I know how long it takes." "Then why are we still looking at it?" Marcus turned his head and looked up at him. "Because the second I flush it, it never existed," he said. "There's no ticket. There's no code. There's no fault report. There's just a truck that suddenly works, and a maintenance man who says he found something. Who's going to believe that at 8:15 in the morning?" Devin opened his mouth. "You would," Marcus said, "because you're standing here. Nobody else was standing here." "So what do? We make it safe without making it clean." Marcus started typing. "I'm going to isolate the drive contactors and put the supervisor in a hold state. That truck can't move, even if somebody drops a wrench on the ignition. but the command stays where it is timestamped with the refusal underneath it, and anybody with credentials can walk over and read it for themselves. That's going to take longer. Yeah. How much longer? 20 minutes. Devin looked at the wall clock. 6:14. He did the math out loud without meaning to. That's 1 hour and 51 minutes. That's plenty, Marcus said, and then because the kid had gone gray, he added, Devin, sit down for a second. I don't want to sit down. Then breathe. You're no good to me holding your breath. Devin breathed. It came out shaky. I keep thinking about the crew, he said. I know. 90 minutes and a crew. That's what he said. That's like 6 guys with a lift, and they'd have been standing right under the front axle when that supervisor came back up. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Kyle would have been under it. Kyle has a kid. I know. You knew before I did. You knew when he was still talking. I suspected, Marcus said. There's a difference, and the difference is the whole reason I'm not going to say his name out loud until somebody with a badge and a subpoena says it first. 6:19. 2 floors up in an office with a glass wall and a view of a parking lot that was starting to fill, Victoria Hayes put a stack of paper on her desk and sat down without offering Ethan Cole a chair. Bay 9 has 11 maintenance invoices in the last 14 months, she said. You approved all of them. That's my job. The one in March is for a coolant manifold, $61,000. Sounds right. It's a hose, Ethan. It's a manifold assembly with integrated sensors, and it's on a prototype that has 40 units in the world, so there's no volume pricing. So yes, it's $61,000. He finally sat. You want to go through purchasing at 6 in the morning. Fine. But there's a truck downstairs that doesn't move. There's also a vendor badge. Cole didn't blink. There's a lot of vendor badges. 9144 scanned into Bay 9 at 11:52 Wednesday night, out at 12:31. Then somebody was doing work. There's no ticket. Victoria, half the tickets in this building get written the next morning. You know that you've complained about it in 3 consecutive all hands. That's true, she said. That's actually true, and it's a fair point, and it's why I didn't say anything in front of 11 people downstairs. She leaned back. So I'm going to ask you here privately one time. Do you know who 9144 is? No. You're sure? I'm sure. Because there's a sponsor line on the access form, Victoria said. Contractor badges don't self-issue. Somebody with director-level credentials signed for that badge. Ethan Cole smiled, and it was the smile of a man laying down a card he'd been holding since 3 in the morning. Then pull the form, he said. Pull it right now. Put it on the screen. Victoria watched him. You want me to? I'd love you to. And that more than anything else he'd said or done that night was the thing that made the back of Victoria Hayes' neck go cold, because she had already pulled the form. It was in her jacket pocket, folded in half twice, and the name printed on the sponsor line in clean machine type, along with a credential number she had memorized in 2019 and never changed, was her own. She kept her face exactly where it was. Later, she said. No, let's do it now. I said later. You brought me up here about invoices, Cole said. You're not asking about invoices. You're asking whether I'd hand you my own head, and the answer is no, because I haven't done anything. And because in 90 minutes, Grant Whitfield is going to shake my hand and ask me why our platform doesn't work, and I'd like to have an answer that isn't a custodian told us. He's not a custodian. Then what is he? Victoria said nothing. You don't know, Cole said. That's the part I can't get past, Victoria. You don't know who he is. You let a stranger open a diagnostic port on a $3 million asset, because he said a sentence you liked, and you did it in front of the entire senior engineering staff, and if this goes badly, it isn't the truck that ends you, it's the judgment. She let 10 seconds pass. Get out of my office, she said. Victoria, get out of my office and don't go to Bay 9. Go to your desk and sit in it. I'll call you at 7:30. Cole stood. At the door he stopped, and without turning around he said, You should ask him where he worked before. Then he was gone. 6:28. Dr. Amara Okafor caught Victoria in the stairwell out of breath and did not bother with any preamble at all. Do not let anyone touch that battery pack. I already told them. No, listen to me. I need you to understand what he found, because I have been in this industry 21 years, and I have never once had to say a sentence like this to a CEO. Say it. Okafor said it. It took 90 seconds. Victoria Hayes stood on a concrete landing, with her hand on a steel rail, and listened, and when it was over, she asked exactly one question. Full torque. Full. With people underneath it. With whatever crew we put underneath it, Okafor said. And Victoria, I want to be honest with you, because I'm going to have to be honest with a lot of people about this later. I signed off on the pack theory at 2 in the morning. I'm the one who said it was the pack. If Bennett hadn't walked through that door, I'd have been the person who told you to pull it. Victoria looked at her. Then it's a good thing he walked through the door. It is not a good thing, Okafor said. It's an accident. That's what's keeping me upright right now. A man came in to mop a floor. 6:34. Ray Delgado came back into Bay 9 walking so fast he nearly collided with a tool cart, and he had a phone in his hand and a look on his face that made Marcus stand up before he'd said a word. They took 4 pages, Ray said. Which 4? Application background check, 2 pages of employment history. Not the middle. Not the middle. What's the middle? Devon said. Neither of them answered him. Marcus. Ray got close. The assistant made a copy of the 4 pages, and then she put the folder back in the drawer, and she took the copies with her. And when she was walking out, she said something into her phone. She said, "It's him." Marcus nodded slowly. Okay. That's it. Okay. What do you want me to say, Ray? I want you to say what's happening because I called you in here at 4:40 to push a broom, and now there's a director of engineering pulling your paperwork before sunrise, and I've got a bad feeling I'm the guy who's going to be explaining this to somebody in a suit. You called me in to clean a floor, Marcus said. That's the whole truth, and it's the only part that's yours. Say that, say it exactly like that, and you'll be fine. Ray stared at him. You've done this before, he said. I've been accused of things before. That's not what I meant. I know it isn't, Marcus said. 6:41. The bay doors opened, and 11 people came in at once, which is how Marcus knew before he turned around that it wasn't going to be a conversation. Ethan Cole was at the front with a folder under his arm. Behind him were 2 security officers, and behind them was Tom, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else in the state of Georgia. And behind Tom was Victoria Hayes, who was walking fast and whose expression said she had been told about this 30 seconds ago and had not agreed to it. Step away from the vehicle, Cole said. Marcus put the laptop down on the stand. He put both hands where everyone could see them. He did it without thinking about it the way you do a thing you learned early enough that your body remembers it before your brain does. I'm not touching it. Step away from the vehicle. Ethan, Victoria said, you do not have the authority to. I have the authority to secure company property when there's an active safety concern. It's in the plant charter section 4. You signed it. Cole turned to the room and raised his voice. Everybody stop. Everybody listen. In the last 90 minutes, we have allowed an unvetted individual unsupervised access to the most valuable asset in this building, and I have just been made aware of information that changes this situation completely. Ethan. Ask him his name. I know his name. No, you know what's on his uniform. Cole opened the folder. Ask him his full name. And Marcus Bennett stood there with his hands out and felt 11 months collapse in his chest. Dr. Marcus Elijah Bennett, Cole read. Ph.D. Mechanical and Controls, University of Michigan, 2011. 9 years at Aventine Dynamics in Ann Arbor. Lead architect vehicle safety supervision. 4 patents. He looked up. Aventine Dynamics. Does anybody in this room want to tell the CEO what happened to Aventine Dynamics? Nobody said anything. We bought them, Cole said. Halcyon acquired Avantine's autonomy division in 2019 for $210 million, and every patent in that portfolio came with it. And this man's name is on 4 of them. And 11 months ago, he applied for a $58,000 maintenance job at the facility that runs his own technology, and he did not disclose it on his application. Not one line. It's not there. I've got the application in my hand. Devin Price said very quietly, "Oh no." "Now you tell me," Cole said. "You tell me how a man with 4 patents and a doctorate ends up on a night shift with a mop. You tell me why he lied on his paperwork. And then you tell me what the odds are that the one night this vehicle fails is the one night that man happens to walk into this bay and diagnose it in 11 seconds." The room did not make a sound. Marcus could feel it turning. That was the thing about a room. It didn't happen all at once. It happened one face at a time, and he watched it go around the bay, like water finding a low spot, and he had felt this exact thing at 11 years old in a corner store in Birmingham, with his hands out of his pockets and empty. "He built the lockout," Cole said. "He designed the exact system he's now telling you saved us. Who else on this earth would know how to write a command that hides inside it?" Victoria said, "Is that true?" She was looking at Marcus. "Which part?" Marcus said. "All of it. The patents are true. The doctorate's true. Avantine's true. And the application? I didn't put it on the application." "Why not?" And Marcus stood in the middle of Bay 9 with 2 security officers 8 feet away and told the truth in the plainest words he had. "Because I applied for 4 jobs in 11 months and I didn't get called back for any of them," he said. "And the 5th time I left the education section blank and they called me in 3 days." Somebody in the back exhaled. "That's convenient," Cole said. "It's not convenient. It's Tuesday." Marcus didn't raise his voice. "You want to know why a man with a PhD takes a night shift, Mr. Cole? Because the night shift lets me put my daughter on a school bus at 7:40 and stand at the pickup line at 3:15. Because I applied to 11 engineering jobs in Atlanta after my wife died, and 9 of them wanted relocation, and the other 2 wanted 60 hours a week, and my kid had already lost 1 parent, and I wasn't going to make her negotiate for the other one." He looked around the room. "You want to know why I didn't tell anybody? Because the second you people know what I used to be, this stops being a job I'm good at and starts being a story, like right now. Look around. It took 40 seconds. Nobody moved." "But that's not the accusation, is it?" Marcus said, and he turned to Cole. "The accusation is that I broke it." "The accusation," Cole said, "is that you had the knowledge, the access, and the motive, and that a man who was passed over for a job he was overqualified for by the company that bought his patents might have some feelings about that. Say the number." "What?" "You said motive, so say the number." Marcus's voice stayed level. "Avantine sold in 2019. Everybody on the architecture team had assignment clauses. I got a bonus and a severance, and my name stayed on the paper, and I have never once in 7 years filed a claim, contested a filing, or contacted a lawyer about any of it. Pull it. It's a public docket. It'll take you 4 minutes." Cole said, "I don't have 4 minutes." "No," Marcus said. "You don't." And there it was again, that flicker, that half-second in a man's face, and this time Victoria Hayes saw it too. 6:52. "Take him to the front office," Cole told the security officers. "He's not under arrest. He's not being detained. He's being escorted off an active floor. Tom, walk him out." Tom didn't move. "Tom?" "Sir, I take instruction from the shift supervisor and the CEO. I am the director of." "He takes instruction from me," Victoria said. The bay went dead quiet. "Victoria," Cole said, "do not do this." "Do what?" "Do not put this company's entire investor round in the hands of a man who lied on an employment application because you feel bad about a $100 bill." And Marcus watched Victoria Hayes flinch. It was small. Almost nothing. But it was the first honest thing he'd seen on her face all night. Dr. Okafor, Victoria said. Ma'am? You've read what he pulled off that vehicle. I have. In your professional opinion, could a man who wanted to sabotage this prototype have written that command waited 8 hours, walked into this bay, at 5 a.m, pointed at it, and been the one to find it? Okafor thought about it, which Marcus appreciated more than if she'd jumped. He could have, she said. It's possible. It's a stupid way to do it because the refusal is logged and it points straight back at the person who wrote it. But yes, it's possible. Thank you. There's a second thing, Okafor said, and I'd like to say it in front of everybody. Go ahead. Whoever wrote that command, the only conceivable way it does damage is if somebody pulls the pack and reboots the supervisor with a crew underneath the vehicle. Okafor turned and faced Cole directly. So my question isn't who wrote it. My question is, why at 5:25 this morning, before anybody in this bay had seen line 206, you were the only person in the building arguing to pull the pack? Ethan Cole said, because that's the obvious repair. It's not obvious. It's the one thing you never do to a vehicle that won't handshake because you lose the state. Okafor's voice cracked slightly. I've been doing this 21 years, Ethan. I said pack 2. But I said it because I was tired and I was wrong. You said it because it was the plan. Somebody said, Jesus. 6:58. Victoria Hayes reached into her jacket and took out the folded printout. There's a contractor badge, she said to the whole room now. 9144. Scanned into this bay at 11:52 on Wednesday night. The command Dr. Okafor is describing was written at 12:14. The badge scanned out at 12:31. Devin Price said. Whose sponsor line? Mine, Victoria said. The bay made a sound. Not words. Just air. My name. My credential number. Issued at 4:40 in the afternoon on Wednesday, which is a time I can account for, because at 4:40 on Wednesday, I was in a car on I-85 with 2 board members and my phone in the cup holder. She held up the page. So either I signed a badge from the back of a moving vehicle, or somebody in this building has been using my credential. Cole said, that's a serious allegation. Yes, it is. There are 8 people with delegated access to your credential. 7, Victoria said. I removed one in April. Then it's 7. And of those 7, she said, how many were on the Geneva trip with me in February when my laptop was in a hotel safe for 11 hours, and my credential was used to approve 4 things I didn't approve, which I noticed, and which I let go, because you told me it was an autofill error in the procurement system. Ethan Cole did not answer. 7:04. Tom, Victoria said. How many cameras are in this bay? 4, ma'am. 2 are for thermal monitoring. 2 are security. Where do they store? 60 days on the local 90 on the cloud mirror. Pull Wednesday night, 11:40 to 12:40. Ma'am. Tom shifted. I already tried. Every head in the bay turned. You already tried. When you asked me for badge logs at 5:20, I pulled camera as well. It's standard. I didn't want to say it in front of everybody until I was sure. He swallowed. The Bay 9 security feed has a maintenance gap. 11:30 p.m., Wednesday to 1 a.m., Thursday. 90 minutes. Firmware update. Scheduled by who? Facilities. Ticket came through the engineering directorate. Devin Price said out loud to nobody, You have got to be kidding me. Now hold on, Cole said, and for the first time that morning, his voice had climbed. Firmware updates get scheduled every month. That's a coincidence that is a literal coincidence. And if we're now at the stage where routine IT maintenance is evidence of a conspiracy, then I want a lawyer in this room before another word is said. That's fine, Victoria said. You're entitled to a lawyer. So am I. Victoria. Tom. You said the Bay feed. Yes, ma'am. What about the corridor? Tom's mouth opened slightly. The corridor's not on the Bay system, he said slowly. Corridor's on the perimeter loop, different contract, different vendor, Was the perimeter loop updated Wednesday night? No, ma'am. Victoria said, pull it. 7-Eleven. It took Tom 6 minutes and the help of a night dispatcher in a booth by the east gate, and they put it on the big diagnostic display because it was the only screen in the bay large enough for 20 people to see, and Marcus Bennett stood exactly where he was with his hands still visible and did not move a single step closer. The corridor feed came up in gray and green. 11:51 and 40 seconds. Empty hallway. 11:51 and 52. A figure walks into frame from the east stairwell, moving at an unhurried pace, carrying a laptop bag over one shoulder. The figure stops at the Bay 9 door, raises a badge, goes in. Devon Price said, "Freeze it." Tom froze it, and the whole room stood in absolute silence and looked at a still frame of a man in the corridor outside Bay 9 at 11:51 on Wednesday night, and Marcus felt the temperature of the room change against his skin because the man on the screen was not wearing a quarter zip, and he was not wearing a badge lanyard, and he was not wearing anything remotely resembling an executive. He was wearing a maintenance uniform, halcyon gray, same cut, same shoulder patch, same everything Marcus Bennett had on his body at that exact moment. Somebody at the back of the bay said, "Oh, come on!" Ethan Cole let out a long breath, and when he spoke, his voice was almost gentle. "Well," he said, "would you look at that?" Victoria Hayes turned her head. She looked at Marcus, and Marcus saw the whole night go through her at once. The laugh, the bill, the challenge, the stairwell, the invoices, all of it collapsing into one question she did not want to ask, and he understood that whatever came out of his mouth in the next 4 seconds was going to decide everything. He didn't defend himself. He walked toward the screen, slow hands still open, and he stopped 6 feet from it and looked at the frozen image of a man in his own uniform. "Tom," he said, "can you zoom the left side?" "Sir." The left side of the frame, his hand. Tom zoomed, and Marcus Bennett, 49 minutes before 6 investors walked through the doors of that building, said one sentence in a voice so quiet the people in the back row had to lean in. "Look at what he's holding," he said, "and then somebody go check who signed out uniform stock on Wednesday afternoon." Tom zoomed. The image went soft and then sharpened, and 20 people leaned in at once. "I don't see anything," Cole said. "Look at his hand," Marcus said. "It's a hand." "It's an empty hand." Marcus didn't take his eyes off the screen. "He's got a laptop bag on his shoulder and nothing else. No toolbox, no parts cart, no bucket. So nobody on that shift walks anywhere empty-handed. You want to know why? Because if a supervisor sees you walking a hallway with nothing in your hands, he finds you something to carry." Marcus pointed. "Second thing, look how he's holding the badge." Tom said, "He's holding it in his fingers." "Right." "So what?" Cole said. "Every maintenance badge in this building is on a retractable reel." Marcus reached down and pulled his own out on its cord, let it snap back to his hip. "Because our hands are full, every single one of them. Raise mine the whole shift. That man is holding his badge like a credit card, which means he's never worn one on a reel in his life." Dr. Okafor said, "Third thing." Everyone turned. She was standing very close to the screen with her glasses pushed up on her forehead. "The shoulder patch," she said. "That's the old mark. That's the pre-2021 logo. We changed it when we rebranded. Every uniform on the floor got replaced that spring." "Then it's an old uniform," Cole said. "It's a uniform that came out of a stockroom," Okafor said. "Not off a person." 7:16. Victoria Hayes said, "Ray." Ray Delgado, who had been standing at the back of the bay trying to make himself as small as a man his size could get, said, "Ma'am, where does uniform stock live?" "Building C cage in the back of the supply room." "Is it logged?" "Everything in that cage is logged. Sizes, quantity, who signed." "How fast can you get there?" 6 minutes at a walk." "Then don't walk," Victoria said. Ray went, and Ethan Cole laughed one short beat with nothing behind it. "This is a fishing expedition." "It might be," Victoria said. It is. Then in 6 minutes we'll know, and I'll owe you an apology, and I'll give it in front of these people the same as I'd give it to anybody. She checked her watch. Dr. Bennett? The name landed in the room like a dropped tool. Half the bay flinched at it. Marcus felt something move in his chest that he did not have time to look at. Ma'am, can you make that truck drive at 8:15? Yes. You said that fast. I've known the answer for an hour, Marcus said. The question was never whether it drives. The question was whether anybody would let me leave the evidence in it while it does. Explain that to me in words I can repeat to an investor. There's a bad instruction sitting in the vehicle's queue. If I delete it, the truck runs in 4 minutes, and there's no proof it was ever there. If I isolate it, the truck runs in about 25 minutes, and the proof stays inside the machine with a timestamp on it that nobody in this building can edit. Marcus held her eyes. You've got 59 minutes. I'd like to spend them doing it the slow way. Victoria said, Do it the slow way. One condition. Another one. I'm not going to touch the keyboard, Marcus said. The bay went quiet again. Say that again. Devin types. Every keystroke. I stand 3 feet back with my hands where everybody can see them, and I say the commands out loud and he executes them. Marcus glanced at Cole. Because in about 4 hours, somebody is going to write a report about this morning, and I want the person who touched that vehicle to be a Halcyon engineer with a badge and a supervisor and 14 months of clean employment, not the man with the mop who left a section blank on his application. Devin Price said, I've never done a supervisor isolation. I know. I've never even seen one. You've seen one now, Marcus said. Sit down. 7:22. Devin sat. His hands were shaking so badly on the first line that he had to type it twice, and Dr. Okafor stepped in behind him and put one hand flat on the back of his chair and said, Slow. Nobody in this room can go faster than you can. Okay. Read it back before you commit anything. Okay. Marcus stood 3 feet behind them, with his hands laced behind his head, like a man being searched, and he called the commands in a flat, unhurried voice, and for 11 straight minutes, the only sounds in Bay 9 were Marcus talking, and Devin repeating, and the tick of a keyboard. At 7:31, the first contactor isolated. Got it, Devin said. Bank 1 is out. Read me the state. Supervisors in hold. Arbiters frozen. Queues intact. Say the last part again. Queue is intact, Devin said. Line 206 is still sitting there. Then we're doing fine. That was when Ray Delgado came back into the bay at a dead run with a phone in his hand and no air in his lungs. 2 uniforms, he said. Wednesday, 4:52 in the afternoon. Victoria said, signed by who? That's the thing. The name line's a scribble, you can't read it. It's a loop and a line. Ray held up the phone with a photograph on it. But there's a second column. Cost center. Whoever pulled those uniforms charged them to a cost center so the cage doesn't eat the inventory. What cost center? 417. Dr. Okafor said, That's not maintenance. No, ma'am. 417 is program integration, Okafor said slowly. That's not even a floor code. That's a contract line. And Victoria Hayes, who had been running that company for 9 years and who knew her own cost centers the way other people know their own phone number, said 417 is Meridian. 7:34. Nobody in the bay understood what that meant, except 3 people. And Marcus watched all 3 of them arrive at it within 4 seconds of each other. Devin got there first because he was 26 and hadn't yet learned to keep things off his face. Meridian integration, he said. That's the retrofit bid. What retrofit bid? Marcus said. There's a proposal, Okafor said. It's been floating since June. Third-party integration partner comes in audits. The autonomy stack replaces the safety supervision layer with their own architecture, rolls it across the whole fleet. How much? 41 million, Victoria said. Over what term? 3 years, with a maintenance tail. Marcus said, Who wrote the proposal? Victoria didn't answer. Ma'am? It's on my desk, she said. It came to me 2 weeks ago with an engineering endorsement attached to it. 12 pages, signed. Signed by who? Ethan Cole said. By me, obviously, because I'm the director of engineering and endorsing a vendor proposal is literally the job. 2 weeks ago, Marcus said. Yes. What's the first line of the endorsement? Cole's jaw moved. I don't have it memorized. Ma'am, Marcus said. You've read it. What's the first line? Victoria Hayes stood in the middle of her own factory and recited a sentence she had read 14 days earlier and had not thought about once since. It says the current safety supervision architecture presents an unacceptable risk of unexplained immobilization events in the field. Nobody breathed. Unexplained, Marcus said. Immobilization. Yes. 2 weeks before an unexplained immobilization. Oh my God, somebody said at the back. Cole's voice came up hard and fast. That is a standard risk statement. That language is in every integration proposal in this industry. Go pull 10 of them, you'll find the same sentence in 9. Maybe, Marcus said. I've written a few of those myself. That's fair. Thank you. Here's what isn't fair, Marcus said. A remediation plan is a solution. You don't write a solution before there's a problem. And if you do, and then the problem shows up 2 weeks later on the morning of your funding round, and the only person in the building arguing to destroy the evidence is the man who signed the solution, then somebody is going to ask a question. And it isn't going to be me. It's going to be a man in a gray suit with a subpoena. 7:39. Cole turned and walked toward the door. Ethan, Victoria said. I'm calling counsel. Sit down. I am not going to stand in a room and be tried by a night janitor with a grudge, so I am going to my office, and I am calling the company's general counsel, and then I am calling my own, and you can decide whether you want to explain that to your board. He got to the door and stopped and looked back, and his voice dropped into something almost human. Victoria, 9 years. I was employee 11. I slept on the floor of the Marietta shop with you. Think about what you're doing. Victoria said. I am. He left. And the bay stood there in a silence that had a completely different flavor than any of the silences before it, because a room full of people had just watched something end. Ray Delgado said quietly, Should somebody stop him? You can't stop him, Marcus said. He hasn't been charged with anything. All you do by grabbing him is hand him a lawsuit. Victoria said, Tom. Ma'am, nobody stops him. But I want every exterior door log for the next 2 hours, and I want to know if he goes to his car, and if he leaves this property, I want the time. Yes, ma'am. And Tom. She paused. Freeze his network credentials. Tom hesitated exactly 1 second. That's IT, ma'am. Then wake up, IT. 7:43. Marcus turned back to Devin. Where are we? Bank 2's isolating. About 4 minutes. Devin's hands had stopped shaking somewhere in the last 10 minutes, and he hadn't noticed. Marcus, can I ask you something while this runs? Go ahead. If you knew all this at 5 in the morning, why'd you take the challenge? I didn't know all of it at 5. You knew enough to walk out. Marcus was quiet a second. I've walked out before, he said. Twice. Both times I told myself I was being smart. And both times I got in the car and drove home and sat in the driveway for 20 minutes before I could go inside because I didn't want my kid to look at my face and ask me what was wrong. He shrugged. That's it. That's the whole reason. I got tired of sitting in the driveway. Devin didn't say anything. Then he said, Bank 2's out. Read me the state. Supervisor hold. Arbiter frozen. Queue intact. All 4 contactors isolated. Now bring the supervisor up. Now. Now. Marcus, if I'm wrong about the isolation, that thing applies 11,000 pounds of torque with 20 people standing around it. You're not wrong. How do you know? Because I watched you type every character of it, Marcus said. And because I'm standing right here, and I've got a 9-year-old who's expecting me at 3:15, and I would not be standing here if I thought you were wrong. Dr. Okafor said, "Everybody back. Behind the yellow. Now." 20 people moved. Devon Price put one finger on the enter key at 7:47 in the morning and pressed it. 7:47 and 11 seconds. Nothing happened. 7:47 and 14 seconds. Still nothing. Devon said, "It's not." And then the truck spoke. Not a roar. Nothing dramatic. A soft descending three-tone chime and a click from somewhere deep in the chassis, and then the low, steady, almost inaudible hum of a high-voltage system coming up clean. And the running lights walked themselves left to right across the front fascia, the way they were designed to on a normal Tuesday in a normal week. Dr. Amara Okafor put both hands over her mouth. "Handshake complete," Devon said, and his voice cracked in the middle of it. "Traction available. 0 faults. 0. It's clean." The bay made a noise then, not a cheer. Something rougher than that 11 exhausted people who had been failing for 9.5 hours, all letting go at once, and somebody clapped Devon on the back so hard he nearly went into the stand. Marcus didn't move. He was looking at the screen. "Devon." "Yeah. Read me line 206. Devon scrolled. "Torque authorization. 12:14 a.m. Thursday. Refused by supervisor. Quarantined, flagged, and locked." He looked up. "It's still in there. It's still in there, and it can't do anything, and it can't be deleted without a two-person credential." "Good," Marcus said. Victoria Hayes said Dr. Bennett. "Ma'am, is that vehicle safe to demonstrate?" "It's safer than it was on Wednesday," Marcus said. "But I'm not going to be the one who says yes." "Why not?" "Because I'm the one people are going to ask questions about." He nodded at Okafor. "She's got 21 years and a name on the certification. Ask her." Okafor was already moving toward the laptop. "Give me 6 minutes," she said. "I'm going to run every line of it myself, and if it's good, I'll put my signature on it, and if it isn't, I'll tell you in front of everyone." 7:54. Marcus stepped away from the group for the first time in 3 hours and stood by the wall and looked at nothing. Victoria came and stood next to him. Neither of them said anything for a while. "You didn't take the bait," she said finally. "Which bait?" "Cole put a doctorate and 4 patents on the table in front of 11 of your coworkers and said you were a saboteur, and you answered him in about the same tone you'd use to read a grocery list." She turned her head. "How practice?" "That's not an answer." "No," Marcus said. "But it's the true one." She let that sit. "I'm going to have to say something at 8:15, she said, "in front of Grant Whitfield and 5 other people who've put $400 million into this company. And I have been standing here for the last 20 minutes trying to write it in my head, and I can't get past the first line." "Then don't write it." "I have to write it. I'm the CEO." "You're a person who did something at 5 in the morning, Marcus said. "Write it as that. Everything else is a costume." Victoria Hayes looked at him for a long moment. "You know what the worst part is," she said. "It isn't the money. It isn't even the fraud. And there is fraud. I've seen enough of those invoices now to know. It's that when you walked in that door, I had 11 people in front of me who had failed all night, and I picked you, out of everyone in the room, to be the one I made small." She said it evenly. "I want you to know I know that. I'm not going to dress it up." Marcus said, "Okay. That's all okay." "What do you want me to say, ma'am? That it's fine?" "No." "Good," Marcus said. "Because it isn't." 7:58. Tom the guard came in fast. "Front gate," he said. "Whitfield's car is early. 2 cars behind it. 6 people." Victoria said, "How long? 4 minutes to the lobby." "Okafor, I need 3 more minutes." Okafor called without looking up. "Do not rush me on this one, Victoria. I'm not signing anything I haven't read. Take 4. And then Tom said the other thing, which he had clearly been holding since he walked in. "Ma'am, there's one more." "One more what?" "Mr. Cole didn't go to his car." Victoria straightened. "Where is he?" "Lobby." Marcus turned around. "He's been in the lobby for 9 minutes," Tom said. sitting in the chairs by the reception desk, which is where the visitors come in. Devon Price said, "He's going to get to Whitfield first." 8:01. Victoria Hayes moved toward the door, and Marcus said, "Don't." She stopped. "Excuse me. If you run into that lobby right now, you look exactly like a CEO trying to get in front of bad news," Marcus said. "He wants you in that lobby. Let him talk. He's going to tell Grant Whitfield my platform is unsafe." "Yes. And you want me to let him?" "I want you to let him say it out loud in a lobby with a camera in it," Marcus said. "Ma'am, he's already lost the truck. The truck runs. The only thing he's got left is a story, and stories die the second somebody can check them. Let him build it as tall as he wants, then walk them in here and turn on the screen." Victoria stared at him. "You've thought about this?" "For about 90 seconds. "That's terrifying," she said. 8:04. They came in as a group, and Grant Whitfield was in front, a heavy man in his 60s with reading glasses pushed up on his head, and the particular calm of somebody who has lost money before and survived it. Ethan Cole was walking beside him, close, talking low. He stopped talking when he saw the truck. Whitfield stopped too. The vehicle was sitting there with its running lights on and its systems live, and the low, clean hum coming off it, and nobody said anything for about 4 seconds. "Ethan," Whitfield said, "you told me in the lobby it was down." "It was down. You told me 40 seconds ago. It was down all night, Grant, and if it's up now, then I'd like to know exactly what was done to it, because there's a chain of custody question here that—" "Dr. Okafor," Victoria said. Okafor straightened up from the laptop. "Vehicle's clean," she said. "I've read every line of the boot sequence and the isolation myself. 4 contactors isolated and restored. Supervisor cycled handshake, complete, 0 active faults. I'll sign it. I'll sign it right now in front of all of you, and I'll put my certification number on it." "Do it," Victoria said. Okafor signed it. Whitfield said, "Somebody tell me what happened." And Victoria Hayes said, "Grant, before anybody says one word about the vehicle, I need to show you a piece of video." 8:07. Tom put the corridor feed up on the big display, and 26 people watched a man in a maintenance uniform walk to the Bay 9 door at 11:51 on Wednesday night and badge himself in. "Who's that?" Whitfield said. "That's the question," Victoria said. "That's a maintenance employee." "That's a maintenance uniform," Okafor said. "Signed out of stock at 4:52 Wednesday afternoon, charged to cost center 417, which is a vendor line, not a payroll line. 2 of them, size 44. 2. Ray Delgado said from the back. "It's in the cage log. I photographed it." Cole said, "Grant, I want to be very clear that I am being accused of." "Nobody's accused you of anything yet," Whitfield said without turning around. "Keep going, Victoria." "The badge that opened that door is contractor number 9144, Victoria said. "Issued Wednesday afternoon. Sponsor line carries my credential. I did not sign it. I was on I-85 at the time it was issued with 2 members of my board, and both of them will say so." "That's a serious thing to say in a room." "It is." "Then who did—" "That's the second question," Victoria said. "And I don't have it yet." 8:10. That was when Marcus Bennett said, "You've got it." Everyone turned. "Say again?" Victoria said. "The badge photo." Marcus was looking at Tom. "Contractor badges get a photograph at issuance. It's on the card, and it's in the system. That's not security, that's insurance. The underwriter requires it." Tom's eyes went wide. That's, I never." He was already moving. "It's a different system. It's the visitor management platform. It's not on the security console." "Can you pull it?" "I need a supervisor login. You've got the CEO," Victoria said. "Pull it." It took him 90 seconds. 90 seconds is a very long time in a room with 26 people in it, and nobody talking. Marcus stood with his arms folded and felt his own heartbeat in his ears, and thought about a hospital in Ann Arbor, which is where his mind always went when he had to wait for something he couldn't control. Then Tom said, "It's up," and a photograph appeared on a screen 12 feet wide, A badge portrait taken against a gray wall at 4:38 in the afternoon on Wednesday. A man in his late 40s with thinning sandy hair and glasses, and the expression of somebody who did not want his picture taken. Marcus Bennett said out loud without meaning to, "Wade." The whole bay turned to look at him. Victoria said, "You know him." Marcus didn't answer. "Dr. Bennett, do you know that man?" "His name is Wade Hollis," Marcus said, and his voice had gone strange. "He was a controls engineer at Aventine. He sat 11 feet from me for 6 years. Somebody said, "Oh, that's it right there, he's connected to." "Let him finish," Whitfield said. "He worked the interlock chain with me in 2016, Marcus said. "The one we've been talking about all morning. He wrote about a third of it. He knew where the maintenance port was because he argued with me about putting it there. And he lost that argument, and he was right, and I was wrong, and I've thought about that maybe 4 times since." He was staring at the picture. He got laid off in the acquisition. $210 million changed hands, and 41 people got a letter. He was one of them. Victoria said, "Did he get anything?" 11 weeks of severance. "And you?" "I got a retention bonus," Marcus said, "because my name was on the patents and yours wasn't." Nobody said anything. "I wrote him a recommendation letter in 2020, Marcus said. "I don't know if it ever did anything for him." He stopped answering after a while. A lot of people did. 8:14. Grant Whitfield took his reading glasses off his head and cleaned them on his tie, which was, Marcus would learn later, the thing that man did when he had decided something. "Victoria," he said. "Who is this?" "His name is Marcus Bennett." I gathered. "He's a maintenance technician on our night shift," Victoria said. "He came into this bay at 4:50 this morning to clean a floor. He diagnosed the vehicle in 11 seconds from the doorway, told a room of 11 engineers they were looking at the wrong system, and he was right. He then refused to delete the evidence, refused to touch the keyboard, so that no one could question the chain of custody, and directed a 14-month engineer through a supervisor isolation while standing 3 feet back with his hands visible. Whitfield said, "Why would he do that last part?" Victoria said. "Ask him." Whitfield turned. And Marcus Bennett said, "Because I'm a black man in a gray uniform in a building where somebody just spent 2 hours telling everyone I sabotaged a $3 million truck. If I'd touched that keyboard, it wouldn't matter what the log said." Grant Whitfield looked at him for a long moment. "That's the most honest thing anybody's said to me in this building in 4 years, he said. 8:16. "Run it," Whitfield said. Victoria said, "Grant, I want to be clear about what we're." "Run the demonstration." "There's an open investigation as of about an hour ago." "I understand that. I'm not going to stand here and tell you this is a normal morning." "Victoria!" Whitfield put his glasses on. "I've been doing this 31 years. Every company I've ever funded has had a morning like this. The only variable that has ever mattered is what the people in the room did at 7 o'clock. Run the truck." Dr. Okafor ran the truck. It came off the pad at 8:17 and ran the full loop, 40 minutes compressed to 9, every gate, every stop, every handoff. And it did not throw a single fault. And when it came back around and settled onto the pad, and the systems went quiet, the room broke apart. People were shouting. Devin Price had both hands on top of his head again and was laughing in a way that was very close to crying. Ray Delgado was hugging a man he had never met. Okafor sat down on a tool case and just breathed. Marcus Bennett stood against the wall with his arms folded and watched it. He did not go over. 8:26. "Where's Cole?" somebody said. The bay stopped. Tom was already on his radio. "North stairwell," he said. "He left the bay during the loop. He's in the parking deck." Victoria said, "Is he in his car?" "He's sitting in it." "Doing what?" "On the phone," Tom said. "Ma'am, one more thing came through while the truck was running." "Say it." "Front gate called," Tom said. "There's a man at the visitor kiosk. Been sitting in the lot since 7:50. He gave a name and he's asking for the CEO, and dispatch didn't put it through because he's not on any list." Victoria said, "What name?" And Tom looked at his phone, and then he looked up at Marcus Bennett across 20 feet of concrete and said it. Wade Hollis. 8:27. Nobody moved for 3 full seconds. Then Devin Price said, "He came here. He's here right now. He's been in the lot 37 minutes, Tom said. That's insane. Why would he? Because he wants to, Marcus said. Everyone turned. He drove here at 7:50 in the morning and parked in a visitor space and gave his real name at a kiosk with a camera on it, Marcus said. A man running doesn't do that. A man running is in Alabama. Grant Whitfield said, Then what is he doing? He's turning himself in, Marcus said. He just doesn't have the words for it yet. Victoria Hayes said, Tom, is he alone? Alone in the car, no passengers. Anything in his hands. Dispatch said he's carrying a folder, Dr. Okafor said. Victoria, do not let that man in this building. I know. I'm serious. There's an active investigation as of about 90 minutes ago, and if you sit down with a suspect before counsel does, you will contaminate every single thing we found this morning. I know that, Amara. Then say it out loud so 26 people hear you say it. Victoria said, Nobody talks to Wade Hollis without a lawyer in the room. 8:29. She turned to Whitfield. Grant, I need to make a call, and I need to make it now, and I'd rather you heard it than heard about it. Go ahead. She dialed on speaker. It rang twice. Dana Reyes. Dana, it's Victoria. I'm in Bay 9 with about 25 people, including Grant Whitfield, and I'm on speaker, and I'm telling you that, so you can decide what you want to say. There was a pause on the line, exactly 1 second long. Then let me talk, and you listen, the general counsel said. What have you got? A vendor badge issued on my credential that I did not sign. A handwritten torque command in a prototype at 12:14 Thursday morning. A 90-minute camera gap on the Bay feed scheduled through the engineering directorate. Corridor footage of a man in a uniform that came out of stock on a vendor cost center. And a man sitting in my parking lot who matches the badge photograph. Dana Reyes said, Where's Ethan Cole? Victoria said, You went straight there. Victoria, I have been asking about Cost Center 417 since March, and I have 3 emails where I asked you for a walkthrough of the Meridian endorsement, and you told me it was an engineering matter. So yes, I went straight there. Nobody in the Bay made a sound. He's in the parking deck, Victoria said. In his car. Freeze his credentials. Done at 7:43. Freeze his badge. Tom's on it. Do not let anyone speak to him. Do not let anyone speak to Hollis, and do not let one person in that room delete one file. Reyes was already moving, they could hear it. I want the vehicle sealed. Okafor said, It's not sealed, ma'am. It just ran a demonstration loop. Who authorized that? I did, Whitfield said. And who are you? Grant Whitfield. Mr. Whitfield, with respect, you don't work here. No, Whitfield said. I just paid for it. Then you'll appreciate that I'm trying to keep it. Reyes exhaled. Fine. It ran. Nothing's ruined. Amara, did you preserve state? Every line. The bad command is quarantined and locked under a 2-person credential, and I have a hash of the boot sequence from before and after. Say that again slower, and I'll love you forever. It's preserved. Then here's what happens, Reyes said. I'm 40 minutes out. Nobody enters that bay who isn't already in it. Somebody write down the name of every single person standing there right now, times of arrival, and give it to me when I get there. And Victoria. Yes. The badge on your credential. Do not say one more word about that to anybody until I'm in the room. Victoria said, Understood. She hung up. 8:33. Devin Price said quietly, There were only 2 uniforms signed out. Marcus looked at him. 2. Devin said. Size 44. Ray said 2. Ray Delgado said 2. It's in the photo. So who wore the other one? The Bay went very still. He only needed 1, Devin said. He went in once and came out once. So either he took a spare or... He didn't finish it. Marcus finished it for him. Or somebody walked him in, Marcus said. Grant Whitfield said, Somebody who'd be recognized in that corridor. Somebody whose face is on the wall in the lobby, Marcus said. 8:35. Tom's radio went off. He listened for 4 seconds, and everyone watched his face, and then he lowered it. Mr. Cole's car just left the deck. Victoria said, "Which gate?" "East." "Stop him." "Ma'am, I can't stop a vehicle. I'm not a police officer. I've got no." "Then log him out and note the time and take a photograph of the plate," Victoria said. "Do exactly that and nothing more." "Yes, ma'am." Devin said, "He's running." "He's not running," Marcus said. "He's driving to his lawyer's office. It's Thursday. It's 8:35 in the morning. He'll be sitting in a conference room downtown before 9 with the entire thing rewritten in his head, and he'll believe every word of it by lunch." Okafor said, "You sound like you've watched a man do that." "I've watched a company do it," Marcus said. 8:38. Whitfield walked over to Marcus for the first time since he'd come through the door. "Dr. Bennett?" "Marcus is fine." "Marcus." Whitfield put his hands in his pockets. "I want to ask you something, and I want a real answer, not the polite one." "Go ahead. If nobody had called you into this bay this morning, if you'd finished your shift and gone home, what happens?" Marcus took a second. "They pull the pack," he said. "Somewhere around 6:30, 7 o'clock. Cole gets his 90 minutes, and his crew and 6 men roll a lift under the front axle, and they seat a fresh module, and the supervisor comes up clean, with no memory of refusing anything. And about 4 seconds later, that cue flushes into the arbiter." Whitfield said, "And then, 11,000 pounds of torque, with 6 men underneath it, and nobody in the loop." "How bad?" "Ask her," Marcus said. "It's her platform. She'll give it to you straight." Okafor didn't hesitate. "Somebody dies," she said. "Maybe more than one." Whitfield stood there. "And then the story is what?" he said. "The story is that the safety supervision architecture presents an unacceptable risk of unexplained immobilization events in the field," Victoria said. "Word for word, it's already written. It's on my desk with a signature on it. And $41 million fixes it. Over 3 years, with a maintenance tail." Grant Whitfield said a word that Marcus had not expected to hear out of a man in a suit that expensive. 8:41. "I want to say something," Victoria said. She said it loud enough that the whole bay heard it, and the bay went quiet, and she didn't move to the middle of the room or climb on anything or do any of the things people do when they want a moment to look like a moment. "At about 5 o'clock this morning," she said, "I took a $100 bill out of my wallet, and I dropped it on the floor in front of a man in a maintenance uniform, and I told him to buy himself a better toolbox. And most of you laughed. And I want you to know that I remember exactly who laughed. And I am not going to hold it against a single one of you because I started it." Nobody said anything. "I had 11 engineers in this room who had failed for 9 hours, she said. 11. And out of every person standing here, I picked the one with grease on his hands. And I'd like to be able to tell you I did it because I was tired and I was tired. I'd been up 22 hours. But I've been up 22 hours before, and I've never once done that to a person in a suit." Devin Price was looking at the floor. "I told him if he fixed it before the engineers, I'd stand in this bay and say out loud that I was wrong," Victoria said. "He asked me to do it in front of witnesses who don't work for me." She turned. "Grant, you're the closest thing I've got. Sorry." Whitfield said, "I'll take it." "I was wrong," Victoria said. "I was wrong about him in every particular. I was wrong about what he knew wrong, about what he was wrong, about why he was in that doorway. And the mistake wasn't that I underestimated an engineer. I want to be very precise because I've had 2 hours to think about it, and I'd rather say the accurate thing than the flattering one." She looked at Marcus. "The mistake is that I decided what he was worth in about 1.5 seconds from across a room before he opened his mouth. And I've been doing that my entire career. This is just the first time it nearly killed somebody." 8:44. She reached into her jacket and took out the printout, and underneath it, folded flat, was another $100 bill. "I want to give you this back," she said. "I know it's not the same bill. You've got that one. I checked my wallet at 6, and I understood I wasn't getting it back, and honestly good. Marcus looked at it. No, ma'am. Marcus? No. I'm not trying to pay you off. I know you're not, Marcus said. That's the only reason I'm still standing here. Then take it. I don't want it, and I don't want the one in my pocket either, and I've been thinking about that for about 3 hours. He said it evenly. You know what that $100 did. It made every person in this room understand exactly what I was in about 4 seconds. That's a powerful thing. That's the most efficient piece of communication I have ever watched anybody perform. And I'm going to keep it because I want to remember that it takes one bill and one sentence and about 4 seconds, and the whole rest of a man's life doesn't get a vote. Victoria didn't say anything. Talent doesn't disappear because people stop looking at it, Marcus said. But I'm 40 pounds of proof that it stops paying. Ray Delgado said from the back, Amen. 847. Then let me do the other thing, Victoria said. What other thing? I want you in this building as an engineer, not a technician. I want you running vehicle safety supervision, which is a director-level position, and I'll tell you the number in front of everybody because I don't want you wondering if I lowballed you in a hallway. 310 base. Equity on the standard director grant, which vested out, is somewhere north of $1 million. Report to me. 26 people made a sound at once. Devin Price said out loud, Take it. Marcus said, No. Devin said, Take it. Devin. Sorry. Victoria said, Give me a reason. 60 hours, Marcus said. What? That job is 60 hours a week. It was 60 hours a week when I did it at Aventine, and it's 60 hours a week here. And every director in this building has a phone that goes off at 11 at night, and you know that because you're the one calling. He shook his head. My daughter is 8. She's had 4 years of a father who is physically present, and she's had 4 years before that of a mother in a hospital in Ann Arbor. And she does not know how to be alone in a house at night. She does not know how. That's not a preference, ma'am. That's a medical fact, and it's got a therapist attached to it. The bay was completely silent. When my wife got sick, I was the lead architect on the interlock chain, Marcus said. I have thought about that chain every day for 11 years. I've thought about my wife every day too, and I'll tell you which one I thought about more in the spring of 2021, and I'm not proud of it. He stopped. So no, I'm not taking a director job. I already know what I become in that chair. Nobody moved. Then Grant Whitfield said, Then write your own. 8:51. Marcus turned. Say that again. You've been in this building 11 months and you found something 11 engineers missed, Whitfield said. That's not a story about you. I mean it is, but that's not the useful part. The useful part is that it's a story about 11 months of nobody asking you anything. Grant, Victoria said. How many maintenance techs on this floor? Ray Delgado said, 62 across 3 shifts. How many have a degree? I don't know. Do you know if any of them do? Ray said. I know one of them's got 2 years of aerospace at Middle Georgia State, and I only know because his truck broke down and we talked in a parking lot for an hour. Whitfield said, There it is. 8:53. Victoria, he said. Let me tell you what I'm funding and what I'm not, because I've had a very educational morning. Go ahead. I'm funding the round. The second tranche closes on schedule. I watched that truck run a clean loop with a locked quarantine on a hostile command, and I watched a 26-year-old engineer execute a supervisor isolation he'd never seen with his hands shaking, and I'd rather own a piece of that than a piece of a company where nothing goes wrong because nobody looks. Somebody at the back said, Oh, thank God. But I'm going to put a condition on it, and it's going to be in writing, and my partners are going to think I'm sentimental, Whitfield said. 1%. 1% of this round goes to a program that finds people in this building who already know things nobody's asked them about. Training, credentialing, tuition, internal promotion, pathway, whatever it takes. And Victoria, I want a number in the first year, and I want it to be embarrassing if you miss it. Victoria said, That's $4 million. It's $4 million that you will make back the first time somebody on a night shift tells a director he's looking at the wrong system, Whitfield said. You very nearly lost the entire company this morning because the only person who saw it was the only person nobody asked. I'm not being sentimental. I'm being cheap. 8:56. Victoria looked at Marcus. Would you run that hours? Name them. 9 to 2:30, Marcus said. 5 days. I'm at the pickup line at 3:15 and I'm not negotiable on it. And I want that in the offer letter in writing so that in 18 months, when somebody says, can you just take a call at 4, there's a piece of paper that says no. Done. I'm not done. Go ahead. I want to pick the first 20 myself, Marcus said. Not HR, not a resume screen because a resume screen is what put me on a night shift with a doctorate. I want to walk the floor for a month and talk to people. And I want to be able to bring in a man who's got a G, ED, and 11 years on a torque gun if he's the right man. Victoria said, that's going to make our recruiting team lose their minds. Yes, ma'am. Good, she said. Anything else? One more. Name it. Devin Price runs it with me. Devin said, what? You heard me. I've been here 14 months. You said the thing at 4 in the morning and Kyle told you it was the contactor and you let it go, Marcus said. That's going to bother you for about 10 years. I know because I've got one of those. So the next time a kid on a night shift says something nobody wants to hear, I want you in the room because you'll be the only person in this company who knows exactly what it costs to be right and quiet at the same time. Devin Price didn't say anything for a second. Then he said, yeah, okay, yeah. 9:02. Donna Reyes arrived with 2 associates and a paralegal, and after that the morning stopped being a story and started being a process. They took the bay, they took the laptop, they took Tom's console and the perimeter loop archive and the cage log photograph off Ray Delgado's phone, and a woman with a clipboard walked the room and wrote down 26 names and 26 arrival times, and Marcus Bennett gave his statement standing up in about 11 minutes in the flattest voice he owned. At the end of it, Reyes said, Dr. Bennett, one question that isn't for the file. Ma'am, why didn't you just delete the command at 5:30 and go home? Because a truck that works is a truck that nobody investigates, Marcus said. Reyes wrote nothing down. Say that to the FBI exactly like that, she said. Word for word. 9/11. Wade Hollis was still in the parking lot. He had been sitting there for 81 minutes, and when Reyes sent an associate out to tell him that no one from the company could speak with him, and that he should retain counsel immediately, he handed over the folder and asked her to give it to Victoria Hayes. And then he sat back in the driver's seat and put both hands on the wheel and didn't start the engine. The associate came back in with the folder held in 2 fingers, like it was hot. I didn't open it, she said. Reyes opened it. She read the first page and then she looked up. It's a printed email chain, she said. 19 pages. Between Wade Hollis and an account at Meridian Integration. It goes back to February. Victoria said, Is Ethan on it? Victoria. Is he on it? I'm going to say something to you as your lawyer, and I need you to hear it as a friend, Reyes said. In about 6 hours, you are going to want to have been a person who didn't ask that question in a room. Sit down. Victoria sat down on a tool case. 9:16. Marcus went outside. He walked out through the east door and across the lot in the July heat with his badge still on his hip, and he stopped about 15 feet from a gray sedan and did not go any closer. The window was down. Wade Hollis looked up. For a long moment, neither of them said anything at all. Marcus, Hollis said. Wade. They told me not to talk to anybody. They told me to, Marcus said. I'm not here to talk about it. I want you to understand that. If you say one word about Wednesday night, I'm going to walk away and I'm going to tell them you said it. Hollis nodded slowly. Okay, he said. Neither of them moved. You look good, Hollis said. I look like a man who's been up since 10 last night. Yeah. Hollis laughed and it came apart in the middle. Yeah, you do. I'm going to ask you one thing, and it's not about the truck. Okay. Did you know the crew would be under it? Wade Hollis put his forehead against the steering wheel. He stayed like that for about 6 seconds. "No," he said into the wheel. "No, God, no. I thought it would throw a code. I thought the supervisor would eat it and throw a code and the platform would look unstable, and that's it, that's all. That's the whole thing." He sat up. His face was wrecked. "I wrote a third of that chain, Marcus. I knew it would refuse. That was the point. It refuses, it logs a soft fault, everybody panics, and in 3 weeks there's a contract. And then they said pull the pack. I didn't know that was the plan." "Wade, I found out at 4 this morning," Hollis said. 4 in the morning from a text message, and I have been sitting in a Waffle House on Camp Creek since 4:15 doing math, about 11,000 pounds of torque. And at 7:30, I got in the car, and I came here, and I have been sitting in this parking lot for an hour and a half trying to make myself walk into that lobby." Marcus said, "Why didn't you—" "Because I saw your name on the visitor screen," Hollis said. "In the lobby feed. They put employee names up when there's an incident. It said Bennett." He wiped his face with the back of his hand. "And I thought of all the people in Georgia." Marcus stood there in the heat. "They gave me 11 weeks, Hollis said. "I know. 11 weeks and a letter, and you got a retention bonus, and I'm not saying that too. You are, though." "Yeah," Hollis said. "I am." "I know," Marcus said. "And it was wrong, and I said so in a conference room in 2019, and then I took the check anyway and drove home." He let that sit. "So, we're going to both live with something. But Wade, I want you to hear the difference, because you're going to spend the next 4 years telling yourself a story, and I want to hand you the true one before somebody hands you a better one. I got angry, and I disappeared. You got angry, and you wrote a command." Wade Hollis said, "Yeah, get a lawyer, a real one, today." "Marcus." "What? Was anybody hurt?" "No," Marcus said. And Wade Hollis put both hands over his face and made a sound that Marcus Bennett would think about for a long time afterward. 9:24. Marcus walked back inside. Victoria was standing just inside the door where the air conditioning hit, and she'd clearly been watching through the glass. "Was that smart?" she said. "No." "Was it right?" "I don't know yet," Marcus said. "Ask me in a year." 9:31. Ethan Cole was arrested 11 days later on a Monday in a parking deck downtown on charges that took a federal prosecutor 4 minutes to read out loud. Wire fraud, falsification of records, reckless endangerment. The invoice number came to just under $2.1 million across 14 months, most of it running through Cost Center 417, and the Meridian endorsement turned out to have been drafted in January, 4 months before anybody at Halcyon had asked for it. He pleaded not guilty for 6 months, and then he changed his mind on a Thursday afternoon. Wade Hollis pleaded first. He pleaded at his arraignment over the visible objection of a public defender, and then he sat down with 2 federal agents for 9 hours and gave them everything he had, including a February email in which a director of engineering had asked him in writing whether the interlock chain had a soft failure mode that would not throw a hard code. Marcus Bennett testified twice. Both times he was home by 4. 11 months. The training center opened the following spring in the old Building C Supply Annex, and there was no ribbon and no press release because Marcus asked for neither, and Victoria Hayes, for once in her life, did what somebody asked. 22 people came through the first cohort. 19 finished. 2 of them are certified controls technicians now. 1 is in her 2nd year of a paid engineering degree that Halcyon pays for on the condition that she not be required to promise them anything. 4 of them were promoted off the night shift within 14 months, and one of them, a 51-year-old man named Curtis, who had run a torque gun for 19 years and had never once been asked a question, caught a torque calibration drift across an entire assembly cell in his 6th week and saved the company an amount of money that nobody in that building will say out loud. Devin Price runs the technical curriculum. He starts every single cohort the same way. He tells them about a night in July when a man told him a truck had stopped asking for power and about how he heard it too an hour earlier and said nothing. 9:33. Marcus Bennett went home that first morning at 9:33. He drove 11 miles east with the windows down, and he did not turn on the radio, and he parked in his own driveway at 3 minutes after 10, and he sat there. He sat there for about 20 minutes. Then he went inside, and Mrs. Greer looked at his face and said, "Was it bad?" And Marcus said, "It was a long one." He slept 4 hours. At 2:55 he got in the car, and at 3:11 he was standing at the pickup line at Sandtown Elementary with his sunglasses on and his hands in his pockets. And at 3:15 the doors opened and about 200 children came out of that building at a dead run. Lily Bennett found him in about 4 seconds. She always did. "Currents," she said. "Yeah. Currents. And tides. And estuary, which wasn't even on the list, and I got it anyway." Estuary. Estuary. "Look at you." "Daddy." She had his hand, and she was already walking him toward the car because she was 8 and the world was moving. "You said you'd be here." "I did say that." "And you were here." "I was here," Marcus said, and that was the whole thing. That was the entire fight. All of it. Everything he had walked away from and everything he had eaten in silence for 4 years. And it fit into 4 words in a school parking lot on a Thursday afternoon. And it did not need a single other person on this earth to witness it. The $100 bill hangs in Victoria Hayes's office. She had it framed in September, and there is no plaque under it and no engraving. And when people ask about it, and they always ask, she tells them the truth. All of it, including the part where she laughed. She has told that story to 2 boards, 4 reporters, 1 deposition, and every single new executive she has hired since, and she does not tell the flattering version, because she found out that morning what the flattering version costs. She says the same thing at the end every time. She says she had 11 of the best engineers in the country in that room, and the answer walked in wearing a maintenance uniform, and she looked right at it and reached for her wallet. Marcus Bennett never took the money back. He never needed it. He had already been paid 11 months earlier and every single day since, at 3:15 in the afternoon at a pickup line by an 8-year-old girl who ran across a parking lot because she knew, without ever once having to wonder, that her father would be standing exactly where he said he would be. They mistook his silence for weakness. They mistook his uniform for the size of his mind. And they found out on a Thursday morning in July that the quietest man in the room was the only one still listening.